Hey gang, welcome back to another episode of Better Call Sexton, now with 100% less lawyer costume. Remember to hit subscribe, like, hit the bell to get notified every time a new episode comes out, all those things, it helps the channel. Today we have a full docket. Matthew McConaughey says, all right, to smaller beds. Fashion Week takes Milan by storm and we talk about all the drama that comes along with it. We take a trip down the rabbit hole with Tim Burton as he officially splits from his girlfriend Monica Bellucci in a public statement, and we get some cohabitation lessons from none other than John Cena. You can't see him, but you can see us. Let's get after it. So in the news, Matthew McConaughey, Class X, says the key to his marriage, very famously, he's in actually a very healthy, long-lasting marriage.
Yeah, they got like a really good, for Hollywood marriages, but for marriages in general.
You'd think, I mean, he's such a symbol of, you know, I don't know, all his characters that you don't see, and you don't think they'd be in a long-term marriage. But he says that his secret is a queen-size bed.
You got a queen-size bed. It'd be a lot cooler if you did. Yeah, that was my best Matthew McConaughey. It's not as good as Matt Damon's. Yeah, I actually saw this interview, and Matthew's been making the rounds at a lot of shows, promoting his new book of poetry, actually, and
Poems and Prayers.
Poems and Prayers, yeah. And I think he's a very articulate. It's kind of not fair that a dude who's that good looking and cool also gets to be smart and creative. That feels unfair to those of us who got like one or two of those traits. Yeah, I mean, he has a very successful marriage and he's very public about it. He talks about it a lot, and it sounds like one of his secrets to happiness is having a queen-size bed, because you're like shoulder to shoulder and you're kind of forced to be close to each other. And, it sounds horrible to me because I think like sleeping is really essential. I'm one of those people that's very like, oh yeah, separate bedrooms, like totally, like we can meet in bed and have fun and then it's time to sleep and you should go sleep. But who might argue with Matthew McConaughey? I mean, I think he's proven his track record of having a successful marriage. They got some kids and they still seem very deeply connected to each other. His wife's a stunner. He's a handsome dude. You know, I guess if you got people that good looking in your bed, you maybe get a twin size bed or a full size bed. You might want to just have a futon. Because that's a very lucky bed. So yeah, Matt McConaughey out there just crushing it once again on more stuff. But again, I don't think it's one size fits all. Bed size, sleeping arrangements. I think if the two people in the marriage are happy with it, that's what really matters. But certainly there might be something to it. Physical proximity like that, tucking in in the den, at the end of the day. But I think if you put like a couple of animals in a bed, queen size bed probably feels small real fast, like you put the wrong dog in a bed and the bed, it's going to take over 3/4 of the bed because you're going to let the dog have as much of the bed as it wants. But a spouse, listen, you got to have some boundaries. Dogs, no boundaries, but a spouse, you probably have some boundaries.
So happening this week, starting as of filming right now, very, very recent, Milan Fashion Week.
Prego.
Kicking it off. All the best looks, the best designers, celebrities,
everybody,
supermodels. I mean, this is where
anybody who's everybody.
This is where the next, kind of generation of supermodel stars starts, is either in Milan or Manhattan. People would love to know, models, fashion industry people in divorce. What does that look like?
I've done a lot of model divorces. I'll be honest with you. I've done a lot of model divorces because they tend to marry guys in finance a lot. Like if you find a New York City supermodel, she's very often married to someone who's a partner at a hedge fund or who is in finance of some kind. Usually the kinds of guys that you kind of can't explain what they do for a living, but you're like, it's something with money. But yeah, they tend to pair up a lot, like models and people in finance. And they can be, it can be a rough road. I've had some clients that are very successful models in the present tense, and the marriage doesn't work out because of the travel that's involved and sort of that's an intense job. There's a lot of like physical demand. You have to maintain a certain level of beauty. A lot of them in person are like supernaturally tall and skinny in a way that genetically just, I don't know how that happens. And I think there's a lot of demands on their time and attention, and they're kind of being objectified for a living, and that can have a toll on a relationship. And then some of them kind of age out of the modeling thing, and the guy who married them specifically because they were a model and super attractive obviously looks fade with time. I mean, looks change, I should say, with time. And in terms of like the ideal, like I might arguably be a good looking man for 52 and a lawyer, but that's a lot of qualifiers in there. Like there's a 18-year-old like swimmer who woke up today hotter than I could ever be without, I could spend hours on it and put on the best suit, and that guy just wakes up in a t-shirt looking incredible, because there's something about youth and there's something about, that starts to change with age. I won't say fade with age, because I think it changes and transforms, but there's definitely, if someone is really into having arm candy, they really view like their companion, their romantic companion, as someone whose looks are a major, major factor in their value as a partner. Then obviously, as they age and change and their looks age and change, you can look at the most stunningly beautiful model from 30 years ago. She's going to look different now. Not necessarily worse, but definitely different. So you really want to, to think about how those things go. Those are sometimes very ugly divorces, because the woman often feels very used and feels very rejected. I think there's a suspension of disbelief when you have like a guy who doesn't have a lot going for him looks-wise, but he's very wealthy, and a woman who doesn't have that much going for her, intellectually or professionally, but she's stunningly gorgeous. There's an unspoken thing where, they say like, oh no, she's an old soul and she's wonderful. And she says, oh no, it's got nothing to do with his money. I mean, of course I do. I like flying on private jets. Yes, but it's got nothing to do with his money. It's his personality. And then, the cracks start to show, and either the money goes away or the looks start to fade or change. And that can turn into some real hostility between two people, because people feel used and they feel like, okay, now it's war. And so I've seen a couple of those real messy ones. I have an affection for Fashion Week, because I once had to have Kanye West's girlfriend, not his current wife, but a past girlfriend, served in Paris during Fashion Week. And if you have to serve someone with papers who's walking around with Kanye West during Fashion Week in Paris, that's much harder than it sounds. Because if you're close enough to serve someone with papers, you're close enough to stab somebody. So if you have security around you that a person could serve you with papers, they're not doing a very good job. But they managed to pull it off. So I was grateful for that. But
you got to give us a little more on that. Hold on. What happened there?
It's out there. It's out there in the papers. You can read about it. That's why I can talk about it. But I was representing someone.
Did you send who do you send for that?
Well, I have excellent people in New York, and those people in New York happen to know people. They're all former law enforcement, and they're all like, I have a guy who's my guy, who's been my investigator for years. He could serve a needle in a haystack, and he's very, very good at his job. And because he's former law enforcement, he has a lot of connections, and he found me the best people in France, basically. And they did kind of a tactical team type of a thing. It was excellent how well they did it.
So that's a job that people can have out here as a court server?
Process server. Yeah, process server. It's usually a licensed private investigator, but their job is specifically to serve people. It's a little like being a bounty hunter, except you don't have to bring the person with you. You just have to hit them with papers, basically. And you can even drop them at their feet in most jurisdictions. So I just had to get this person served with a temporary order, and they had gone to Fashion Week, and they were going to all the shows. So we actually knew where they were going to be, but getting next to the person was what was hard, but we managed to do it.
Wow, how do I get that job? I mean, don't get me wrong, I love working here, but
it's almost always former law enforcement or former military. It's usually people that have some tactical experience and that they know how to deal with crisis situations, because sometimes people react very violently when they get served with papers. And so my guy that I use is armed, and he's licensed concealed carry, and he's a licensed private investigator.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
this is the sexy part of the job.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
God. So, Jim, from Vanity Fair, Tim Burton, Monica Bellucci, not related to the other Bellucci's apparently, but
Bellucci. You don't know Monica Bellucci? Monica Bellucci is my celebrity crush. Period.
I don't. Maybe this
number one on my list of celebrity crush.
Maybe I'm showing my age. I don't know who that is.
She played Mary in The Last Temptation of Christ. She was in Irreversible. I don't even know what to say about Monica Bellucci. Monica Bellucci is stunning woman. And she's like getting better looking as if it was humanly possible. It's bizarre.
She is. I'm looking at the photos here from the article. She does look very Tim Burton.
And that's like now. That's her now. Like check out like Monica Bellucci 1990 or 2000. It's not even fair.
Well, it shows that Tim Burton
speaks like 5 languages, lives in Italy. Like, no, when I heard this story, I considered getting a flight to Italy. Like, that's Monica Bellucci's back on the market, guys. Like, this is Saul. It's like The Purge. Let's go. Like, let's just. And
listen, I love his movies, but if Tim Burton can, I mean, he's not known for his rugged good looks. I'll say that about Tim Burton.
No, but he's had some quality women in his life. He was in a long-term relationship with the one was in all of his movies, Helena Bonham Carter. Yeah. So he's, for a dude who looks like, he probably got thrown in some lockers when he was a kid, man, he's doing all right. Like he's landed some very, very attractive, intelligent women. These are all, what they have in common is they're all like very, very attractive and very, very smart, worldly women. So Tim Burton out there, hats off to you, buddy. You're crushing it, man.
There's something to be said about it. But people, I'm glad you mentioned Helena Bonham Carter. So this is an interesting conversation. So he was never officially married to anybody. He was never officially married to Helena Bonham Carter.
I mean, he's figured out the secret formula, which is just you can't get divorced if you don't get married.
Yeah, so in this situation, they were not married. They were together for a while, but they were not officially married. And so it kind of begs a question here. We'd love to know from you. Elder breakups, not divorce, but breakups.
Are you calling Monica Bellucci an elder?
Oh, she says 60. That's
good Lord.
Is that not legally an elder?
I guess it's not a senior citizen yet. She couldn't get Social Security or something like that. You're calling my longtime celebrity crush an elderly lady. That is not, believe me, that is not what you imagine when you see the words elderly lady. You do not imagine Monica Bellucci.
Well, then I guess older people.
Yeah, when older people are divorced or had multiple divorces, and then they decide they're going to cohabitate and they're going to, have a long-term relationship and choose not to marry. I don't think that's that shocking. I think that's pretty common practice. I think, a lot of people marry for the purpose of having kids and legitimizing those kids, for lack of a better term. But if people already have children by prior relationships, or they're at an age where, the stage in life they're in, they're not interested in having or adopting children, cohabitate. Like, I can't imagine if you're Tim Burton or Monica Bellucci that you're like, this is so wonderful, but I'd really like to get the government involved. I think that would be, probably a younger person's folly to some degree. I have no idea. It does create interesting issues, though, when, people split up and you don't have any legal rights. Of course, in this situation, Tim Burton's very successful financially and professionally. Monica Bellucci's incredibly successful professionally and financially. They're two people that both have made, a phenomenal amount of money and fame doing what they do and what they love to do and do very well. She's a phenomenal actress. He's a phenomenal writer, director. So, nobody's going to be sleeping in a cardboard box in this situation.
Well, I guess, they don't have to give away half of their stuff either. It's going to be
that's one of the nice parts. Like, you can have half my stuff if I can have Monica Bellucci, but, it seems like it's a trade, and
I'm looking up the young photos here. That's a good looking woman.
Stunner. Absolute stunner. And like brilliant and articulate and has like an accent. It's just a checklist of like super hot things.
All right, Tim Burton. Well, people, it's interesting. This is happening right now. It's the end of September. Halloween's coming up. Maybe we'll see like a great creation from Tim Burton. Maybe it'll be.
It could be. She was in, Monica Bellucci was in his last film, which was the sequel to Beetlejuice 2. And she played one of the main characters in the film. So he has a tendency to cast, his romantic partners in films. But of course, none of them are people that are not qualified. Like, these are excellent actors.
I was about to say, someone else in Hollywood used to do that, and it's a little controversial.
Probably a lot of people that do that, and, but these are like above board girlfriends, not casting couch kind of a thing.
Okay, right on. Keeping it above board. So, you've had this conversation before where you've talked about one of your most viral clips is you talking about sort of someone asked someone who's older, oh, well, we're not married, and how we kind of think it's weird when someone who's older isn't married to a longtime partner. Do you think this is good for kind of normalizing what you've talked about, the whole marrying as a technology as opposed to as a social thing? Yeah, I mean, there's a
legitimacy that we give to the term wife or husband that we don't give to the term longtime partner, boyfriend, or girlfriend, because again, I don't know that that's an earned legitimacy. I mean, unless you're religious and you tend to view marriage as a sacrament of some kind, essentially all it means is that you signed a piece of paper with the government or with the state in which you married. So it doesn't, to me, add any value. A person could be dating and living together for 10 years and they're still boyfriend, girlfriend, or partners, whatever you want to call it. And, a couple could have met last night at a bar in Vegas when they were drunk and went off and got married by Elvis, and now they're husband and wife. Does that make their relationship deeper, more intimate, more profound, more sacred, more likely to succeed? I don't think so. But we do place a certain legal status on being married. And I think that has created a certain legitimacy along with the religious underpinning narrative that's there. So, but I think there should maybe be some other word. Partner is the one that people use, but I think, you get pilloried sometimes when you say, oh, this is my partner, because it could be, there's other kinds of partners. I have more than one, says a guy who lives in Chelsea and, occasionally gets accused of sounding gay. I think that's what happens in the comments section when you are vaguely articulate. People are like, this dude sounds gay, which I always laugh and sort of go like, well, if I was, I would still have half my 401k in a house. But I'd be very proud of it, by the way. I'd be like the gayest gay guy ever. I'd be like the dude at the Pride March with wearing nothing but like a rainbow cocksock. But I'd be super out about it if I was. But I think that when you refer to, I will say to people, oh, my partner, Colin, my longtime partner, Colin, meaning my law partner, Colin. But because I live in Chelsea, and because I'm holding another guy's hand, no, I'm kidding. But just because I live in that, people assume that I'm gay, and they'll say oh, how long have you guys been together? And I'm sometimes having a whole nother conversation than they're having. I'm like, oh, we've been together 15 years. I met him right when he got out of law school. And they're like, oh, that's so sweet. And then I'm like, oh, wait, no, they're misunderstanding this conversation. So I think there's got to be a better word than partner. Boyfriend and girlfriend, I think we agree, has a slightly better than person I hook up with or situationship. But if somebody's been together for 10, 20 years, they live together, calling somebody like your girlfriend or your boyfriend just feels very that's what your teenage daughter has or your teenage son has. So maybe we need to come up with another term that does not involve getting the state involved and potentially giving away half your stuff.
So we have here from a very interesting source, John Cena.
John Cena, you can't see me. There it is.
What we're seeing now is his house rules. So he's since been married. He's currently married.
This is with Nikki Bella.
Yes.
My other celebrity crush. Oh my God. This is the Better Call Sexton Jim's Celebrity Crush edition. I love this. Can you see I have a type, by the way? I'm describing Monica Bellucci, Nikki Bella. Can you do the math on this, guys? There you go.
So we have here a quick little reel we'd love to show you.
Oh yeah, let's do it.
If you want to take a look. So he's obviously
Nikki in it?
She's not. So he's since been married to a different woman, but they dated from 2012 to 2018.
Long time. Total Divas. I watched it. I loved it. Absolutely. Natalie Eva Marie, by the way, fan of the show. Natalie Eva Marie, fan of the show. She's messaged me. I was excited not only because I'm a fan of hers, but also because it was 1 degree closer to Nikki Bella.
So we have here his house rules before she could move in. Let's see.
Nikki Bella moves in. You let her do whatever she wants, John.
If you're thinking about moving in with your boyfriend or girlfriend, you might want to take a page out of John Cena's playbook. You see, John Cena just made his girlfriend sign a 75-page contract before moving into his house. And in that contract, he called her a guest. He said she had no rights to anything in the property and that she had to move out immediately after they broke up. Now, some people might call John Cena a jerk for doing this, but as a real estate attorney, I think he's brilliant. And let me explain why based on the laws.
No, we're good. Okay. Well, listen, I understand, the nature of this. I think the way he's parsing it makes it sound like, John said to her, you're a guest. I think that's the way the contract reads. But yeah, we do cohabitation agreements all the time for people. If you're not going to marry, but someone's moving in and you own, I'm sure John Cena has a phenomenal home. He's one of the most successful celebrities in the world. He's instantly recognizable internationally. He's number one on the Make-A-Wish Foundation, both requests and does them. So he's by all counts, just an awesome human being. I don't think anybody anybody ever had any beef with him. So I think he's somebody who has some things to protect. And he was, cohabitating with Nikki Bella, who also very successful, not John Cena level successful in terms of financial, but very few people are. I think he probably is the most successful wrestler in terms of his net worth. But, he's miles away from most people. You literally can't see him. But yeah, I think this was prudent. You don't get to that level of success and wealth in business and with your finances without having good lawyers around you, good advisors around you. So I'm sure one of them said, hey, listen, if this person's going to move into your home and it's an extremely expensive and fancy home, which I remember from watching the show, it was, this is not an imprudent thing to do. And Nikki Bella, to her credit, after their breakup, went and got married herself. She's since divorced. Now she's single. She and Monica Bellucci are both single. Good Lord. And I think, this is not an unreasonable thing for people to do. I don't think it was unreasonable for Nikki Bella to sign off on it. I think that, you're moving into someone's home that they owned before you're together. I think it's like talking about a prenup. It's like, hey, listen, there's a set of rules no matter what. It's either a set of rules written by the government about how you can evict someone from your home, but you're buying yourself into some kind of a conflict. So why wouldn't you have some very clear rules about, okay, and I imagine there are probably, although I've never seen the contract, I'm sure there were provisions in it where he's giving some things too, probably saying, if you have to move out, I'll cover the expenses of your moving out. I'll provide some amount of money for you to have other play. Not that Nikki Bella needed it. She's a successful businesswoman. She has a wine brand. She has a bunch of other brands, and she's still involved in WWE. So, these are two successful people who probably entered into this relationship at the time in very good faith and with a lot of affection towards each other. They were engaged at one point. But ultimately things end, and this ended. It ended with a great amount of dignity. They both moved on and married. So, hopefully this is an example of contracts done the right way, where people none of us ever heard, hey, Nikki Bella and John Cena are fighting it out in court. We never heard any of that. So that's a good sign when people can break up successfully, gracefully, and move on with their lives. It's better. And sometimes having a rule book that you wrote instead of the government is a good way to do that.
So do you think that this should become a normalized practice?
Making Nikki Bella sign documents if she wants to move in with you? Absolutely not. If Nikki Bella wants to move in with you, you let her move in with you. You get a queen-size bed. A la Matthew McConaughey. That's what you see. That's a circle back.
There you go. Well, for all the guys out there not dating Nikki Bella, and for all the women out there not married to Matthew McConaughey, is this a good plan? Having some kind of, it's almost kind of like a prenup, like a move-in prenup.
It's basically just a cohabitation agreement. It's a partnership agreement. I'm a fan of contracts. I'm a fan of knowing what the rules are and setting your own rules. Perhaps I'm some kind of a libertarian, but I tend to believe that people's agency and autonomy and agreement between a person who you're serious with in a relationship, you're going to do a better job than the state legislature, period. I think you're going to do a better job. Again, a set of rules applies. Everyone has a prenup. It's either one that's written by the government and subject to change by the government unilaterally without your permission, and you can't get out of it once you've signed it, or a set of rules that you and your partner sign off on. Which do you think is better? I think you have to be absolutely bonkers if you think that the future imagined government is so trustworthy. Whatever party you're in, every Republican friend of mine thinks 3 years ago we were screwed, and every Democrat friend of mine thinks that right now we're screwed. So if you don't know what the political future holds, why would you trust the people who you are imaginary people at this point? Why would you trust them to make the rules of your relationship? Every relationship has a prenup. Every cohabitation has a set of rules involved. It's the real property law, and that's why a real estate attorney's talking about it on a video as if it happened yesterday. This is the law, and the law a year from now could change. I've been practicing law 25 years. I have seen so many laws change during that time that if you ran back I did a consultation earlier today with a potential new client. Yes, without the tie. It was amazing. I felt so liberated. And if you had played that person a consultation I did 20 years ago, the advice about the law that I gave them would have been totally inapplicable because so much of the law has changed in that time. So it's very, very important when you're agreeing to important legal changes in relationship that have a contract that governs the rules, that sets the rules. Your relationship, your rules, period. Cohabitation, marriage, whatever it might be. All right, guys, time for our viewer submission. Remember to go to sextonshow.com to send us your love mail, hate mail, questions, topics you'd like us to cover. if Monica or Bellucci or Nikki Bella want to message, that's fine too. We'll definitely return that email. But let's see what the mailbag holds today. All right. Thanks for talking about splitting custody while married in your book. My husband and I have been doing this since our first night with our first baby under the motto, why do we both need to suffer? We're happily married 12 years and like each other more than we do our children, even though our children are great. If you read this on the show, please don't say my name. I don't want my kids to know. Love you and the show. Thank you, Debbie Smith. Oh, geez. No, I'm just kidding. It's not Debbie Smith. Well, thank you for taking the time to write to us. Yeah. So for those of you who have not read my book or listened to me talk for 8.5 hours on Audible, one of the things I talk about is that people who get divorced, if you have a friendly divorce of the kind that I had and many of my clients have, you kind of have the best of both worlds. You have dedicated time with your children, and you can tell everybody in your life and your work, hey, listen, Wednesday, Thursday, I have my kids, so I gotta, and then you have nights like Mondays and Tuesdays where you don't have your kids and you can do your own thing. You can go to that yoga class. You can, go out and do what you want to do, have an adult life without children, and knowing at that time that your children are with the only other person who loves them as much as you do. So I know all situations aren't like that, before you pillory me in the comments, but there are many people that have that situation. So one of the things I talked about is, why do you have to get divorced to do that? Married people can have a custody rotation if they want to. If a marriage is the you, the me, and the we, and you want to preserve the you and the me, because that's the thing that the two of you first met and liked about each other, why wouldn't you say, hey, you know what, babe? Every Monday night, you do you. You do whatever you want. Go to that yoga class, go to the Starbucks and read that People magazine that you got, that you want to just, have some time to yourself, go out with your friends, whatever it is that makes you, makes you feel good, makes you feel free and open and happy. You go do that. I got the kids. I'll take care of them that night. And similarly, on Wednesday night or Friday, whatever it is, I'm going to go do my thing. I'm going to do my fantasy sports. I'm going to do my UFC. I'm going to go do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, whatever it might be. So I gendered those a bunch. But look, the truth is, there's no reason why you have to get divorced to have some of the quote unquote benefits of being divorced. You can have a custodial rotation and split your responsibilities in a way that gives everybody a little bit of a break. And then, just like a parent who's divorced, when their kids come back, they're excited to see them. I remember when it was, my weekend with you guys, I would be excited for you to be there. I'd go out to Trader Joe's and I'd get all kinds of snacks and I'd have everything ready. And, you guys had come and I hadn't, seen you in a couple of days, and it was super fun and exciting to be with you. So I think there's nothing wrong with that. I think that it can be a really, you don't have to get divorced to have that experience.
I don't know why this is reminding me. Do you remember Boys Night Out?
Boys Night Out.
Do you remember that?
Do I remember that? It was like my favorite thing. We used to, but that was when I was still married to your mom. We used to, on Wednesday nights, we would go to Johnny Rockets and we would get burgers and shakes. And then we would go to Dave and Buster's or Jeepers when you were super little. And we would play video games and hang out. Yeah.
We didn't know that was preparing for, so the audience should know, they did that in preparation for, divorce.
We really, actually, I have to tell you something. We didn't know we were doing that in preparation for divorce. It was really just that I was working so much because I was building the firm that basically your mom said to me, listen, I need one night where I can have a minute to myself, and you need to spend some time with these kids. And I was like, all right, on Wednesday nights, I will make a point of telling my assistant, do not book anything. And I would come and pick you guys up at my house, my own house with your mom. And I would take you guys out and we would have dinner and all that. And then I'd bring you home and I would do all the bedtime stuff. And it actually ended up being very good practice for us being divorced. Your mom once said to me, actually, after we divorced, that, because we stayed friends, and I remember saying hey, are you doing okay? And she said, it's not that different. You're never here and, you're at work. That's kind of what our marriage was. So it wasn't that different. And I remember saying to your brother, who was, I don't know, 7 at the time, I remember him saying oh yeah, we still do Boys Night Out, it's still the same. So I guess subconsciously we were preparing you guys for a custodial rotation without meaning it. I actually spent more time with you and your brother after we were divorced.
That's true.
Because I realized that your mom and I would kind of stay apart because when we were together, we both felt a certain emptiness we didn't want to look at. And when I then had dedicated time with you guys, that it was, okay, this is my time. And your mom, to her credit, I will have to say, it's why I'll always have an affection for your mom, among other reasons. When we got divorced, she said, these boys love you and they need you and they want your time more than anything else. And it's not too late for you to figure out how to do better at that. And I took those words to heart, and I'll always be grateful to her because I made a point of hearing that and looking at myself and saying, yeah, I have to make a priority of this. And I tried to make a priority of it.
No, that's great. And that's great to hear because I imagine you see in your field of work, there's a lot of people who, whether it be the ex-wife, the ex-husband, they're trying to minimize the time.
Yeah,
so,
it's a shame. I see it all the time. I mean, look, and sometimes it is that this person is a dangerous presence or an unstable presence or a destabilizing presence in the children's lives. But sometimes it really is revenge. It's anger. I will certainly say I was very fortunate, as many of my clients are, to have a really supportive co-parent. And that makes all the difference in the world. You know, if you have someone who wants you to succeed as a parent, even if you failed them as a spouse, that's a really beautiful thing. And again, it's why she'll always have my gratitude and my friendship and my loyalty, because I know that there would have perhaps been women who would not have done that. I've represented women like that. I've represented a lot of men who have ex-wives like that. And your mom was the opposite. And I have a lot of clients that are really good co-parents. You can even be really mad at your ex-spouse, but recognize that they're a really good parent, because the skill set for a spouse and the skill set for a parent are completely different. But, you know, we had it really good. I mean, I would sometimes call your mom and say, like, hey, I had a really rough day. I handled this really ugly case. Can I just come get the boys and take them for ice cream? Like, it would make my heart feel less heavy. And she'd be like, yeah, go for it, you know? So
shout out mom.
Shout out mom.
Shout out mom.
Shout out Mary Jane.
I don't know if she watches the show, but
I guarantee she doesn't. I guarantee she doesn't. Because I've actually said to her a couple of times, like, oh, did you see I was saying something about you? And then she's like, oh, I don't watch your stuff. And I was like, yeah,
that also makes sense because she doesn't understand what I do for a living. I think I have a call once a week where she'll call me while we're doing this.
Yeah.
And I go, Ma, I'm working. And she goes, you don't have a job. What do you mean? I'm like, no, I work for Dad. And she's like, well, what do you do? I'm like, we filmed this
just make
popular show.
Just make something up. Just be like, oh, I'm a dolphin trainer.
Yeah, I don't think she understands. She's like, because I've tried explaining, and she's like, well, how do you make the money? I'm like, well, it goes online.
Drugs. We sell drugs.
Yeah, like she just doesn't get it.
Yeah.
Like the concept.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll just say it's on TV.
She doesn't watch this stuff. She watches, we had completely different tastes in media.
Well, she still has a cable TV.
That's quaint.
Isn't that something
one of her favorite shows is Impractical Jokers. Hey, that's
a good show. Hold on now.
This is your mother's influence. This is your mother's influence. Like,
no, she watches on cable TV, which is it's honestly, it used to be like, oh my God, cable TV. But now when I go to her place, I'm like, this is actually kind of quaint. Yeah, it's kind of cute.
Yeah. No, she's a analog gal in a digital world, and God bless her. And her husband, is similar. So the two, she found her perfect match. So they can sit and watch cable together. They'll be very happy. All right, it's time for Sexton-ism. What these are a series of quotes that I say to clients so often that my staff jokes that I should have a book of the same material because I say it over and over again. So until I have that book, you got this segment. Never explain and never complain. You won't get paid for either. I always tell my clients, because clients have this inert need that they they feel like they want to explain things to their ex, or they want me to call opposing counsel and explain things to them. I always tell clients, complaining and explaining, you're not going to get paid for either of those things. I've always said about explaining that your friends don't need it and your enemies won't believe it, so don't bother. You convey information that's necessary for people to make decisions, but never complain, never explain. You won't get paid for either. All right, gang, that's it for the Celebrity Crush edition here at Better Call Sexton. Thanks for tuning in. Remember, subscribe, hit the notification bell, smash that like button, all those wonderful things. Helps the channel and helps the show. We are adjourned.